The calculator display blinked at me like a digital heartbeat. $799. Who pays that much for a calculator? I tapped the sleek metal case, wondering if it was made of pure silver or just pretension. The TI Advanced does everything except your taxes, a warm voice said behind me. Though I bet you could program it to try. I turned to find a tall man in a charcoal suit, his smile genuine enough to make my cynicism stutter. For this price, it better do my laundry too. I'm Ryan, he said, picking up the calculator. And I'd say this is more of a third-date purchase. You know, after you're sure they're worth the investment. Peyton, I replied, watching him examine the ridiculous price tag. And I prefer to audit my relationships before making any major acquisitions. His laugh echoed through the electronics store, drawing curious glances. An auditor? That explains the calculator shopping. Though I have to say, most auditors I've met don't have such a sharp sense of humor. Most production directors I've met don't hang out in calculator aisles, hitting on women. I raised an eyebrow, noting his company ID badge. Guilty as charged. He set the calculator down. Bennett Electronics. Family business. Though right now, I'd rather talk about coffee than spreadsheets. I should have said no. My last relationship ended in a spreadsheet, specifically, a detailed accounting of his infidelities that I'd compiled over 3 months. But something in Ryan's eyes made me pause, made me wonder if maybe some risks were worth taking. Coffee sounds good, I heard myself say. But I should warn you, I notice everything. Perfect. He gestured toward the store exit. Because I have nothing to hide. 2 hours later, sitting in a corner cafe, I realized how dangerous those words were. Ryan talked about his family's company with pride, about his father Thomas, who built it from nothing. About his mother Laura, who kept everyone grounded. But when he mentioned his sister Jenna, something shifted in his voice. She's brilliant, he said, stirring his third coffee. Handles all our procurement. Dad says she's got his business sense. But? I prompted, recognizing the hesitation. But nothing. He smiled too quickly. Tell me more about your work. What made you choose auditing? I let him change the subject, filing away that moment of discomfort. I like puzzles, I said. Numbers don't lie. People do, but numbers? They always tell the truth if you know how to read them. That's both fascinating and slightly terrifying. Ryan leaned forward. Would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow night? I promised to keep all my receipts organized. I looked at him, really looked. At the way his confidence didn't quite mask his vulnerability, at how his eyes crinkled when he smiled. At all the little tells that said this man was either exactly what he seemed or the best liar I'd ever met. Yes, I said, surprising myself again. But I have one condition. Name it. No calculators allowed at the table. His laughter filled the cafe again, and something inside me shifted. Like the first number in a complex equation, changing everything that followed. Deal, he said, reaching for my hand. Though I should warn you, my family's going to love you. I didn't know then how wrong he was. Didn't know that in 6 months, his sister Jenna would try to destroy everything I held dear. Didn't know that my ability to read numbers would uncover a betrayal that would tear his family apart. But that's the thing about numbers. They always tell the truth, even when we're not ready to hear it. The Bennett mansion loomed before me like a corporate headquarters, masquerading as a home. 3 weeks after meeting Ryan, I stood at their front door, my knuckles white around a bottle of wine I'd spent too long selecting. Ready? Ryan squeezed my hand. They're going to love you. The door opened before I could answer. Laura Bennett's smile was warm enough to melt steel. You must be Peyton. Come in, come in. Ryan hasn't stopped talking about you. The foyer could have housed my entire apartment. Family photos lined the walls, professional portraits of perfect poses, and calculated casual moments. I noticed Ryan featured prominently in most of them, while a dark-haired woman appeared less frequently, often at the edges. Father's in his study, a crisp voice announced from the top of the stairs. He's reviewing quarterly reports. Jenna Bennett descended like royalty, each step measured. Her Louboutins probably cost more than my monthly rent. I'm Jenna, she said, extending a manicured hand. Ryan's sister. I handle procurement for Bennett Electronics. Procurement? I matched her grip. That must keep you busy, especially with the new Asian markets opening up. Something flickered in her eyes. You follow our business dealings? I follow numbers. They tell interesting stories. Jenna, Ryan cut in, Peyton's one of the top forensic auditors at Morrison & Klein. How fascinating. Jenna's smile didn't reach her eyes. Though I hope you're not planning to audit us. Family businesses can be complicated. Thomas Bennett's entrance saved me from responding. He carried authority like a well-worn coat, comfortable but unmistakable. There's my boy, he boomed, embracing Ryan. Then he turned to me, his handshake firm. So you're the calculator girl. Dinner was a masterclass in subtle warfare. Laura's attempts at warmth competed with Jenna's Arctic precision. Every question felt like a test. And your family, Peyton? Thomas asked between bites of perfectly cooked salmon. What do they do? It's just me, I said. My parents died in a car accident when I was 12. My grandmother raised me until college. How awful, Jenna murmured. That must be why you're so detail-oriented. Trying to control what you can. Actually, I met her gaze, it taught me that numbers don't abandon you. They don't lie or make excuses. They just are. Speaking of numbers, Thomas leaned forward. What do you make of the market volatility lately? Our Asian expansion has been interesting. Father, Ryan warned, but I was already answering. The numbers suggest someone's taking advantage of currency fluctuations. Your procurement department must be working overtime to manage the risk. Jenna's fork clattered against her plate. More wine. She stood abruptly, reaching for the bottle. Allow me, Ryan offered, but she'd already moved, her arm brushing mine. Red wine splashed across my white blouse. Oh, I'm so sorry. Jenna's concern was perfect theater. How clumsy of me. Here, let me help. It's fine. I dabbed at the stain with my napkin, noting how the wine spread like blood across fabric. Nothing I can't handle. Laura hustled me to the powder room, armed with club soda and apologies. Through the door, I heard raised voices. Really, Jenna? Ryan's anger was clear. It was an accident, Jenna snapped. Unlike some people's hiring decisions. I pressed my ear to the door, but their voices dropped to hisses. When I emerged, the dining room wore a mask of forced normalcy. Peyton, Thomas called as we prepared to leave. Join us for Sunday brunch next week. I'd love to hear more about your work. Jenna's smile turned predatory. Yes, do come. I'm sure we'll have lots to discuss. In the car, Ryan was quiet for several miles. I'm sorry about Jenna, he finally said. She's protective of the family. Is that what you call it? I watched streetlights flash past. Ryan, what's really going on with your sister? He gripped the steering wheel tighter. Nothing. Everything's fine. But I'd seen the tension in Thomas's shoulders when Asian markets were mentioned. Noticed how Jenna flinched at procurement questions. Something wasn't adding up, and if there's one thing I knew about numbers, they never lie. I just hadn't realized how dangerous the truth would be. 6 months flew past like balance sheets in a windstorm. The diamond on my left hand caught the morning light as I studied the pregnancy test's double pink lines. Ryan and I had planned to announce it at tonight's family dinner, our first real celebration since the wedding 3 months ago. My phone buzzed. A text from Thomas, need your expertise. Found something odd in Q3 reports. Can you stop by the office before dinner? I texted back my agreement, trying to ignore the flutter of unease. Since joining the family, I'd noticed Thomas growing increasingly concerned about the company's financials. He'd drop hints, ask careful questions, always with Jenna hovering nearby like a shark, scenting blood. The Bennett Electronics headquarters occupied a gleaming tower downtown. Thomas's office commanded the top floor, but I found him in the conference room, surrounded by papers. "Peyton," he looked up, shadows under his eyes. "Thank you for coming. These procurement reports." He pushed several sheets toward me. "Something's not right." I scanned the numbers, my trained eye catching discrepancies immediately. "These supplier costs are inflated. And these shipping manifests?" The door opened. Jenna stood there, perfectly composed in designer black. "Father, I didn't expect to find you here. On a Saturday." "Just showing Peyton some reports," Thomas said carefully. "Getting a fresh perspective." "How convenient." Jenna's smile was razor sharp. Our new daughter-in-law, already so invested in family business. She moved closer, peering at the papers. "Though I'm sure you have more exciting news to focus on." My hand instinctively moved to my stomach. "What do you mean?" "Please." She rolled her eyes. "The way you've been avoiding wine? Looking green at breakfast?" "I'm not stupid, Peyton. Though apparently, you think we all are." "Jenna," Thomas warned, but she continued. "Did you really think you could waltz in here, seduce my brother, and take over everything? The company, the family?" Her voice rose. "I've worked my entire life for this company. Everything I've done has been for this family." "Everything you've done?" I kept my voice steady, though my heart raced. "Like inflating supplier costs? Falsifying shipping records?" The silence was deafening. Thomas stood slowly, looking between us. "Careful, Peyton." Jenna's voice dropped to a whisper. "Pregnancy can make women unstable. Paranoid, even. It would be a shame if stress affected the baby." My blood turned to ice. "Is that a threat? A concern? From your loving sister-in-law?" She gathered the papers from the table. "These need to be properly filed. In my department. Where they belong." "Jenna," Thomas's voice cracked like a whip. "Leave those." "It's fine," I interrupted, meeting Jenna's gaze. I already saw what I needed to see. She left with the papers, her heels clicking a victory march. Thomas sank into his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 60 years. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have seen. Should have known." "Known what?" I pressed, but he shook his head. "Not now. Not here. We'll discuss it at dinner." But at dinner, Thomas never showed. Ryan got the call just as we were sitting down. His father had been rushed to the hospital with chest pains. Severe stress, the doctors said. Would need to rest for several days. "How terrible," Jenna murmured, reaching for her wine. "All this excitement can't be good for anyone. Especially not in your condition, Peyton." Laura gasped. "Condition? Are you?" Ryan grabbed my hand, his joy overshadowed by worry for his father. "We were going to announce it tonight. We're having a baby." "Oh, darling." Laura embraced me, tears in her eyes. Jenna's glass clinked against her plate. "How wonderful. Though the timing seems convenient. Right when father's health fails, here comes the next generation of Bennetts." "That's enough," Ryan snapped, but I squeezed his hand. "It's fine," I said, watching Jenna. "Family is complicated." "Isn't that what you told me, Jenna? But numbers. Numbers never lie. And sooner or later, every calculation comes due." She held my gaze, challenge meeting challenge. In that moment, we both knew, this wasn't just about family anymore. This was war. And I had 9 months to win it. The baby shower invitations arrived in pale pink and gold, Jenna's elegant handwriting promising celebration and joy. I stared at mine for a full minute, my 6-month bump pressing against the kitchen counter. "She's trying," Ryan said, wrapping his arms around me. "Mom says she's been planning this for weeks." "That's what worries me." I traced the embossed letters. Since Thomas's heart attack, Jenna had been suspiciously accommodating, all while procurement records kept disappearing from the company servers. The Bennett mansion's grand room sparkled with expensive decorations when we arrived. Jenna floated between guests in a designer dress that probably cost more than my car. "Peyton, darling." She air-kissed my cheek. "You're absolutely glowing. Though you look tired. Running reports must be exhausting in your condition." Before I could respond, Laura appeared with a tray of mocktails. "Let's start with the gifts." I sat in the designated chair, feeling like a specimen under examination as 40 pairs of eyes watched me unwrap presents. Designer baby clothes, antique silver rattles, a custom-made crib that could have housed twins. "Open mine next," Jenna handed me a small box, her smile too bright. Inside lay a vintage pearl necklace I recognized from the family photos. Thomas had given it to Laura when Ryan was born. "Mother's pearls," Jenna announced to the room. "A family tradition, passed down to welcome new Bennett mothers." Her voice carried perfectly. "Though they seem to have gone missing from the safe last month. How fortunate I found them in time." The room went silent. Laura's hand flew to her throat. "Missing? But I just wore them at the charity gala." "Exactly." Jenna's eyes locked onto mine. Imagine my surprise when I discovered them in the guest room. "The one Peyton uses when she works late at the house." My fingers went numb. "What are you implying?" "Nothing, dear sister. I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation for how Mother's irreplaceable pearls ended up among your things." I started, but Jenna was already addressing the crowd. "It's probably pregnancy brain. So forgetful, these days. Though it does make one wonder about those missing procurement files." "Enough." Ryan stood. "Jenna, this is ridiculous." "Is it?" She pulled out her phone. "Because I have security footage of someone accessing the company servers after hours." "Someone with your wife's access code." The room spun. I recognized her trap too late. She'd been planning this for months, laying groundwork, planting evidence. "I can explain," I said, but guests were already whispering, gathering their bags. "Of course you can," Jenna soothed. "Just like you can explain the unauthorized transfers from our Asian accounts? The one's father was investigating before his unfortunate health issues?" Laura burst into tears. Ryan's face had gone pale. I stood, pearls clutched in my fist. "You want to talk about unauthorized transfers? Let's discuss your offshore accounts, Jenna. The ones you've been funneling company money into for the past year." "How dare you?" She stepped closer, voice dropping. "You have no proof." "Don't I?" I met her gaze. "Thomas showed me those reports for a reason. He knew something was wrong, and now I do too." "Thomas is an old man with a weak heart," she hissed. "And you're a pregnant woman with questionable mental stability. Who do you think the board will believe?" "Stop it, both of you." Ryan moved between us. "This is supposed to be a celebration." "Oh, it is," Jenna smiled. "It's a revelation of truth. About who really belongs in this family." I looked around the room, at Laura's tears, at the scattered gifts, at the faces of people who'd already decided my guilt. Then at Ryan, torn between wife and sister, tradition and truth. "You're right," I said, placing the pearls on a side table. "This is about belonging. And truth." I turned to leave, then paused. "But you forgot something, Jenna. Numbers don't care about belonging. They only care about being right." Her laugh followed me out. Good luck proving anything without access to those files. She didn't know I'd already copied everything. Didn't know that while she was planning my downfall, I'd been building her coffin, nail by numerical nail. The game wasn't over. It was just getting started. 3 days after the baby shower disaster, I sat in my home office, surrounded by financial records I'd secretly copied over the past months. My laptop screen glowed with transaction logs, each number a piece of the puzzle I was assembling. The doorbell rang. Thomas Bennett stood there, looking older than his 60 years. "I heard about the shower," he said, stepping inside. "Jenna's always been protective of family assets." "Is that what we're calling embezzlement now?" I spread printouts across my dining table. "Look at these transfers. Every major procurement deal in Asia has a shadow transaction. Money disappearing into accounts I can't trace." Thomas studied the papers, his hands trembling slightly. "I suspected. But seeing it. There's more." I pulled up a document on my laptop. "Someone's been falsifying shipping manifests. Double billing clients. The company's hemorrhaging money, but the books show profit because Jenna's cooking them." He sank into a chair. "My own daughter." The front door opened. Ryan walked in, freezing at the sight of us. "Father? What's going on?" "Show him," Thomas said quietly. I turned the laptop toward Ryan. "Your sister's been stealing from the company. Millions, Ryan. And she's using my access codes to cover her tracks." Ryan's face went through a cascade of emotions: denial, anger, realization. The pearls. The accusations. "She was setting you up?" "As her fall person, yes." I touched my growing belly, feeling our baby kick. If the theft was discovered, all evidence would point to me. "We need to go to the police," Ryan started, but Thomas raised a hand. "Not yet. This needs to be handled internally first. For the company's sake." My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number: "Back off or the board learns about your unauthorized server access." "How's that pregnancy stress level?" I showed it to Ryan. His jaw clenched. "She's threatening our baby now?" He grabbed his keys. "I'm ending this." Wait, but he was already gone, door slamming behind him. Thomas touched my arm. "Let me talk to her first. Maybe if she knows I'm willing to forgive." "Forgive?" I stared at him. "She's stolen millions, threatened your grandchild, and tried to destroy my reputation. This isn't about forgiveness anymore. She's still my daughter. And I'm carrying your grandchild." I gathered the papers. "I won't let her hurt my family. Any of them. Including you." My phone buzzed again. "Laura, emergency at the office. Come quickly. Don't tell anyone." Thomas read the message over my shoulder. "It's Sunday. Why would Laura be at the office?" "She wouldn't." I grabbed my laptop. "But Jenna would use her mother's phone to set a trap." "Then don't go." I thought of Ryan, rushing to confront his sister. Of Laura, possibly being used as bait. Of the baby kicking inside me, reminding me what was really at stake. "I have to." I headed for the door. "But I'm not going alone. Peyton. Call the police. Tell them everything. Then call Ryan, keep him away from the office." I touched the flash drive around my neck, containing copies of all evidence. It's time everyone saw the truth. "Be careful," Thomas called as I left. "Jenna's always been brilliant at games." "This isn't a game anymore," I muttered, starting my car. "It's a reckoning." The Bennett Electronics building loomed ahead, its windows dark except for the top floor, Jenna's office. As I parked, another car pulled in beside me. Laura stepped out, confusion on her face. "Peyton?" "I got a text from Ryan saying to meet him here." My blood ran cold. Jenna hadn't just set a trap, she'd orchestrated a family reunion. And somewhere above us, she was waiting, holding all the pieces she thought would destroy me. But she'd forgotten something crucial: numbers don't lie, and I had 7 months of truth documented in that flash drive. Whatever game she was playing, I was about to change the rules. I took Laura's arm, leading her toward the building. Stay close to me. It's time to show your daughter what real family loyalty looks like. The elevator doors opened to darkness. Laura clutched my arm as we stepped onto the executive floor, emergency lights casting long shadows across empty desks. Jenna? Laura called out. Darling, are you here? A figure moved in Thomas's office. Ryan emerged, his face tight with anger. What are you both doing here? I told you to stay home. You didn't text me, Laura said. Jenna did. Using your number. The overhead lights blazed on. Jenna stood by the breaker panel, wearing the same dress from the baby shower. Family reunion. How touching. It's over, Jenna. Ryan moved toward his sister. We know everything. Do you? She smiled, pulling out her phone. Because I just sent the board some interesting emails. Seems our pregnant auditor has been accessing confidential files, making unauthorized transfers. Covering her tracks poorly. My hand went to the flash drive around my neck. Those transfers trace back to your accounts. Not anymore. She tapped her screen. Amazing what good IT people can do. Every transaction now bears your digital signature. Even the ones happening right now. My phone buzzed. A notification from the company's banking app, large transfers in progress, all under my authorization. Stop this, Laura pleaded. We're family. Family? Jenna's laugh was brittle. Ask father who he trusted with the company's future. Ask Ryan who got every opportunity while I worked twice as hard. Ask our new sister-in-law who father asked to investigate the books. Because you were stealing. Ryan shouted. I was taking what I deserved. She moved to her desk, pulling out a familiar leather folder. Everything I did was for this company. While you played perfect son, I kept us profitable. Made the hard choices. By committing fraud? I stepped forward, but a wave of dizziness hit me. The baby kicked hard. By surviving. Jenna opened the folder. And now you'll all understand what that means. The elevator dinged. Thomas emerged with 2 police officers. It's done, Jenna. I've told them everything. Have you? She smiled. Show them the evidence, Peyton. Your precious flash drive. I reached for my neck. The chain was gone. Looking for this? She held up the drive. Lifted it when I hugged you at the shower. Amateur move, keeping everything in one place. That's not the only copy, I started, but she cut me off. The cloud files? Deleted. Server backups? Corrupted. It's your word against mine, and right now, millions are flowing through your access codes. The room spun again. I grabbed a desk for support, feeling wetness on my legs. Peyton? Ryan rushed to me. You're bleeding. Laura gasped. The baby. Get an ambulance. Thomas shouted. Jenna watched, unmoved. Stress is so dangerous during pregnancy. Maybe if you hadn't been obsessing over false accusations. False? I forced myself upright, fighting the pain. The original files are gone. And in about 10 minutes, you'll be arrested for corporate theft. Such a tragedy, pregnant woman has mental breakdown, tries to frame innocent sister-in-law. Ryan supported my weight as my knees buckled. This isn't a game, Jenna. She needs a hospital. Life isn't fair. She turned to the officers. I'd like to press charges. Through the haze of pain, I saw Laura move to her daughter's desk, saw her hand brush against Jenna's purse. Saw her palm something small. Wait, Laura's voice shook. Before anyone does anything. She held up a small recorder. Let's hear that confession again. Jenna's face went white. What? Your mother's birthday gift, Laura said softly. The one you mocked for being old-fashioned. Digital recordings are so easy to delete, but this is analog. Like the truth. The recorder crackled to life. Everything I did was for this company. I kept us profitable. By surviving. As Jenna lunged for her mother, the officers moved in. Through the chaos, through the pain, I heard sirens approaching. But all I could think was, some numbers can't be erased. Some truths refuse to stay hidden. And some victories cost more than we're prepared to pay. The hospital room felt too small for all the tension it held. 3 days after the office confrontation, I sat propped up in bed, my baby safely stabilized, watching Jenna's arraignment on the room's small TV. Ryan gripped my hand as his sister pleaded not guilty. A knock at the door. Thomas entered, looking grave. The board's reviewing everything. The evidence on Laura's recorder. It's damning. Not damning enough, Ryan muttered. Her lawyers are already talking about mental stress, temporary insanity. That's why I'm here. Thomas placed a thick folder on my lap. These just came in from our Hong Kong office. Backdated contracts, double invoices. All with Jenna's original signatures. My hands trembled as I opened the folder. She got sloppy in the beginning. Before she learned to cover her tracks. The door burst open. Jenna strode in, followed by her lawyer and 2 police officers. Discussing company business without the head of procurement? That's against protocol. You're out on bail? Ryan stood, positioning himself between her and my bed. Money opens doors, brother dear. Speaking of money. She smiled at me. Those transfers under your access codes? Still unexplained. That's enough, Thomas started, but Jenna raised her hand. No, father, it's not. You want truth? Here's truth. She moved closer to my bed. I built this company's success while Ryan played favorite son. Every deal, every contract, I made them happen. And my reward? Being investigated by an outsider. You stole millions, I said quietly. I earned millions. But you wouldn't understand that, would you? Little orphan Peyton, so desperate for family, she'd destroy one to belong. The baby monitor beeped steadily. I looked at it, then at her. You're right. I don't understand family the way you do. I never had siblings to betray. Betray? Her laugh was sharp. I protected this family. Every illegal deal kept us competitive. Every stolen dollar kept people employed. But you only see numbers, don't you? Black and white. No gray areas. Show her, Thomas said suddenly. I pulled out one last document from under my pillow. Your first procurement deal, Jenna. The one that started everything. She froze. Father was so proud, he kept the original contract. Complete with your notes in the margin, calculations showing how to skim money through inflated costs. You weren't protecting the company. You were testing how much you could take. You don't understand. I understand numbers. And fear. I touched my stomach. You were afraid of being overlooked. Of not measuring up. So you took what you thought you deserved, then couldn't stop. Shut up. She lunged forward, but the officers caught her arms. The thing about numbers, Jenna? I continued. They're like family. Complex, interconnected. Change one, you affect them all. Just like your actions affected everyone in this room. Laura appeared in the doorway, tears streaming. Oh, Jenna. Why didn't you just talk to us? Talk? Jenna struggled against the officers. Like you talked to me, mother? All those years of Ryan's so successful, and why can't you be more like your brother? I never. You didn't have to. It was in every look, every silence. Well, guess what? I succeeded. I made myself indispensable. Until she came along. She glared at me. The perfect daughter-in-law. The one who could do no wrong. No, I said softly. Just the one who could read the numbers. And they told me everything you couldn't say. Thomas stepped forward. Jenna Bennett, you're formally terminated from Bennett Electronics. And his voice cracked. You're no longer welcome in this family's home. You can't. I can. I must. He turned away. Officers, please remove my daughter. As they led her out, Jenna looked back once. In that moment, I saw not the sophisticated executive, but a little girl still trying to prove her worth. The numbers don't lie, she said quietly. But sometimes I wish they did. The door closed behind her. Ryan buried his face in my shoulder. Laura sobbed in Thomas's arms. And on the monitor, our baby's heartbeat continued its steady count. Marking time like numbers in a ledger, each beat a reminder that some calculations change us forever. The calculator sits on my desk, its display dark, the same ridiculously expensive model that brought Ryan and me together. Now it serves as a paperweight for court documents detailing Jenna's guilty plea. My daughter kicks in her carrier beside me as I review the final numbers. The restitution payments, the legal fees, the restructuring costs, they all add up to one complicated truth: some debts can never be fully repaid. A knock at my office door. Laura stands there, holding a familiar leather-bound folder. These came from Jenna's attorney. More evidence? Letters. She places them on my desk. One for each of us. She wrote them during her first month in prison. I stare at the envelopes, each name written in Jenna's precise handwriting. Have you read yours? Not yet. Laura touches her letter with trembling fingers. Some calculations I'm not ready to face. The baby fusses. I lift her, breathing in her powder-fresh scent as I rock her. Did you know she used to help me with math homework? Laura continues. Before the competition with Ryan started. Before everything became about proving herself. My letter feels heavy in my hands. Through the window, I can see the Bennett Electronics building, its windows reflecting the setting sun. Thomas and Ryan are there now, rebuilding what Jenna nearly destroyed. She asked to meet you, Laura says quietly. When you're ready. I'm not sure I'll ever be ready. Neither was I. She pulls something from her purse, the pearl necklace from the baby shower. But family ledgers are never truly closed, are they? I think of Jenna in her cell, writing letters she wasn't sure would be read. Of the little girl in those family photos, always at the edges, watching her brother shine. What do the numbers tell you now? Laura asks. I look at my daughter, at her tiny fingers curled around my thumb. That some calculations don't fit in neat columns. That balance sheets can't measure what really matters. And revenge? Feels different when you're holding something precious. I adjust the baby's blanket. Maybe that's what Jenna never had, something to protect besides her pride. Laura stands to leave, but pauses. Will you read it? I pick up Jenna's letter. Numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story either. Maybe it's time I heard hers. After Laura leaves, I open the envelope. Jenna's words stare back at me. Dear Peyton. You once told me numbers don't abandon you. But people do. Or at least, that's what I always feared. Every achievement became a shield, every dollar a defense against being left behind. I thought I was protecting myself, but I was really just proving what I feared most, that I wasn't worth loving without proving my value. You protected our family by exposing me. I protected no one by betraying them. That's a calculation I'm still learning to live with. Take care of them. And maybe someday, teach my niece that her worth isn't measured in balance sheets or boardroom victories. Jenna. The baby yawns, her tiny face peaceful. I think of the calculator that started everything, of how some connections can't be quantified. Of how revenge, like redemption, rarely follows a straight line. I reach for my phone, type a short message, visit approved. Bring a calculator. Some numbers need witnesses. Because maybe that's what family really is, not a perfect equation, but a complex formula of mistakes and mercy, betrayal and forgiveness. All adding up to something greater than its parts. My daughter stretches in her sleep, and I add one final entry to today's ledger. Some debts are meant to be forgiven, not collected. Some battles end not with victory, but with understanding. And sometimes, the truest calculations are the ones that don't balance at all.